opinion on that. All right? So, let's get into Get Out, and I'm reading from my phone because I took the notes. Number one, at the beginning of the movie Get Out, notice the father. He was a passive-aggressive racist. What do we mean when we say passive-aggressive racist? A passive-aggressive racist is just like any other passive-aggressive personality. They are passive. The racism is benign. They go out of their way to act like they're not racist, and by doing so, they end up manifesting their racism. You ever meet Europeans like this who go out of their way to act like they're not racist, and in doing so, they actually show and prove the racism that is actually there? That's passive aggressive. In your face, it's silent. In your face, it's benign. In your face, it's covert. But the minute you turn your back, it gets very aggressive. Passive aggressive. It's like the white police officer who don't like black folks. When he's in his civilian clothing, you don't know this. But once he puts on that police officer's uniform and goes to work, he starts locking up blacks and shooting blacks and beating up black. Passive aggressive. So the father was passive aggressive. Now remember when they hit the deer, when they were riding and they hit the deer on the way to the white girlfriend's home. Hitting the deer was symbolic of all of the black men and women who have been hit by police, murdered by American cops. Notice how most blacks who have been murdered, the major cases, it was all related to what? Traffic stops or conflicts on a traffic route. Michael Brown on the road. Tamir Rice outside near the road. Sandra Bland was arrested on a routine traffic stop. Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, routine traffic stop. If you look at it, most of the major cases of police genocide took place in relation to or near traffic and transportation, driving or walking from one place to the other. So the deer that flew out and got hit was symbolic of all the blacks who were murdered by police related to traveling along the road. Facts. Notice, after they hit the deer, he stopped and got out. The brother, who, by the way, should have played Ricky Bell in the New Edition movie, because that brother looks just like Ricky Bell. So whoever did the casting for New Edition, you got to tell me why the brother who starred in Get Out was not Ricky Bell in New Edition. He looked just like Ricky Bell, as opposed to the brother y'all had playing Ricky Bell. He looked nothing like Ricky Bell. He did a good job, though. Shout out to the brothers. They all did a good job. But that brother was Ricky Bell for real. Getting back on task. Not to digress. He got out and he walked back to the deer. And he stared at the deer as if he knew the deer. As if the deer was him. Okay? And what that symbolizes was he understood that he, like the deer, was fair game. Notice when the deer was killed, nobody asked about the deer. When the police officer came, he didn't ask about the life of the deer. He didn't ask how the deer got killed. Notice that. All of that was symbolic. All of that was symbolic. It was speaking to the issue that when black men and women are killed on the road, Michael Brown on the road, Freddie Gray got his what? Spinal cord severed from his brain, driving to the police station. Sandra Bland stopped and arrested, driving on the road. Philando Castile, Alton Sterling, murdered while driving. Look at the symbolism. So in staring at the deer, he understood that I could also be fair game. Killed, murdered, thrown on the side of the road, and nobody even stops to think what happened. Who else was killed on the road? Do y'all remember the case of the brother in Texas, James Byrd, who was drugged to his death. Do y'all remember that? When the late, great, incomparable Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad and the new Black Panther Party went on down to Jasper, Texas to secure the lives of the brothers and sisters down there. That's why I have a lot of respect for the new Black Panther Party. Some of those brothers are still with the new Black Panther Party, and I appreciated what they did for the family in Jasper, Texas. James Byrd, another one, murdered on the road. Look at all these road killings. See, that deer symbolized that the black man in America is nothing but road kill. I said that deer symbolized that the black man in America is nothing but road kill. Facts. Now let's go further. Let's go further. Notice how when they got to the house. Oh, let me back. Well, I'll come back to that. Notice how when they got to the house, the passive-aggressive father, what did he say? The passive-aggressive father said, I'm glad you killed that deer. There's too many of them. Don't feel bad. I'm glad you killed them. There's one less deer we have to worry about. They're populating the whole countries. Y'all remember that? That was symbolism. He was really talking about us. Every time a black man is killed on the road by a police officer, so what? It's good. There's one less Negro we have to worry about. Y'all remember when the father said that, right? Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Good. It's too many of them. They're useless. They're repopulating like crazy. They're all over the place. That was symbolic language to let you know that in the privacy of their own homes, in the privacy of their own homes, a lot of white folk secretly support in silence the genocide of blacks in America. Facts. Facts. Let's keep on going. And then the same father who said, don't worry about it. There's too many of them anyway. Turned around and said, what, family? I would have voted for Barack Obama a third time if I could. Facts. The same father who applauded the murder of the deer, symbolically black male, roadkill, turned around, this passive-aggressive racist, and said, I would have voted for Barack Obama a third time. What did he mean? Why would a racist who just said he don't mind black men being killed symbolically through the deer say that he was an Obama supporter and would have voted for Obama a third time if he could have? The symbolism in that is that white folk appreciated Barack Obama for not doing a single thing for blacks. They appreciated Barack Obama for finally taking the black agenda off the table. They appreciated Barack Obama for finally making every other minority more important than black folks because they were tired of hearing about us. They appreciated Barack Obama for brainwashing and distracting black folks for so long so they can take everything we fought for and give it to everybody else. So by the time Obama leaves office, we're only 2 steps away from where we were in slavery. Obama was the greatest weapon. Obama was the greatest strategy. Obama was the greatest tool that racism could have ever come up with. Put a black man in office so we can do whatever we want to do to black folks because he ain't going to say nothing about it, and they so politically retarded that they're going to defend his right not to do anything. That was a powerful symbol. Powerful. I would have voted for Obama a third time because we wasn't done with you Negroes yet. We needed Obama for 4 more years because we wasn't done with y'all yet. Facts. Now, let me go back. Remember, they were looking with the passive-aggressive father, him and Ricky Bell. They were looking at his father's picture. Remember that? The white father was showing his father. He said he competed with Jesse Owens in the Olympic trials for the right to go to Berlin. Do y'all remember that? He said, this is my father. He competed with Jesse Owens for the right to go to the Olympics, and Jesse Owens beat his father. And then he said, quote, my father almost got over it. My father almost got over it. What did he mean when he said, my father almost got over it? That was symbolic to say that white men do not take an easy eye to being outdone by black males in any capacity, in any profession, in any period of time. There already is an insecurity because of the black man's genetic predomination. There's already an insecurity. And when he spoke of his father never really getting over the fact that he lost in the Olympic trials to Jesse Owens, that was speaking to the insecurity of white males that is at the root of their hatred for black men. Remember, 95% of the time when a black male was lynched, he was also castrated. 95% of the time when a black male was lynched, he was also castrated. Irish were lynched, not castrated. Jews were lynched, not castrated. Chinese were lynched, not castrated. Italians were lynched, but the black was lynched. They took off your penis. Why did they remove the black man's phallus, but they didn't remove the Chinese's phallus, the Italian's phallus, the Jew's phallus, or the Irish phallus? Because the black man's phallus represented an inferiority complex for the European male, because the black male can reproduce himself. The black male can reproduce himself in every woman, and the white male cannot reproduce himself in any woman except the white male. Facts. They never like to see us win. Never like to see us win. Never. Never. I was looking at the NCAA brackets for the Division I Men A March Madness. This field of 64. Villanova from Philadelphia is the reigning national champion. Now, it's a white school, Catholic school, white coach. But the players are predominantly black. They put Duke in the same bracket with Nova. Now, everybody knows that when you have a reigning national champion who becomes the #1 overall seed in the tournament, which means they're the 1 seed in their region, you don't put a powerhouse like a Duke in with them because they've earned the right to take the easiest road. Yes, they will have to play a #2. I agree. They will have to play a #2 seed. But you don't give them Duke, the team with the most active championships in the league. You don't do that. But because they don't want to see those young brothers from Philly win that damn national title again, which is what it's looking like they're going to do, they're going to do what? Put Duke, the great white Blue Devils. They're going to put the Blue Devils in the way of Villanova so they don't get back to that championship game. The things that they do. Okay? Engineered Super Bowl games. The things that they do. Okay? But that was powerful. How he talked about his father never got over that. White males, white people never forgive black folks for doing better than them because they have white man's burden, white woman's burden. They must always appear greater. They must always appear better. Always. It's the burden. They're not superior. So it's a burden because you have to constantly make it look like you're better when you're not. The burden of white supremacy. Notice in the movie Get Out, all of the blacks who were working for the family, and the family symbolized corporation. That family was a corporation. And if you notice, the movie effectively showed you how the family and corporation is one. The family and corporation is one. And the movie also did a good job of making you see that there's no separation. You date my daughter, you're in this corporation, whether you like. Ain't no personal in business. They don't separate personal and business when it comes to black folks. You dating, you are in the system, whether you like it or not. So they did a good job of letting black folks understand your purpose in a white relationship. Your purpose dating a white woman. Your purpose in the white family is to be used and exploited for their gain, never for yours. It came out perfectly in the movie. It came out perfectly in the movie. He understood you are here for our benefit. She ain't dating you just to date you. I hope you black men were paying attention. I hope you black men were paying attention. The message was clear. This ain't about no love. The whole thing was a setup. Let's take it to the pros. I happen to know people who work in the upper echelon of professional sports. Being who I am, I come across a lot of people. And I've been told that many of the white women that the black male athletes end up dating were sent to them. They were sent to them by the agents. They were sent to them. That woman wasn't innocent. She did not meet you innocently. She was sent to you to spy and keep the agent and the corporation aware of what you're doing. Remember what I said, even when you sleeping with them. Even when you sleeping with them, white supremacy is at work. I done taught y'all this. Ain't no timeouts from white supremacy. You always on the job. Ain't no timeouts. You always on the job. Let's keep on. Spending time with the white family for the brother. Okay, and I'm going to call him Ricky Bell because he looked just like Ricky Bell. No disrespect to him or Rick. But the more he spent time with the white folk, the more consciousness he lost. Did y'all see that? In other words, spending time with white folk was a loss of consciousness itself. Even without the hypnotism of the mother. Just being exposed to the technology socially begins to bring about a demise of consciousness. What do they say? You become like those you hang out with. You become like those you hang out with. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Have you noticed, and this is no disrespect, this is no disrespect to any black man or woman dating outside their race. I don't agree with it. I don't condone it. I don't support it. You'll never work at my school. But this is no disrespect. But for those of you who have friends and family who date outside the race, specifically white folk, do you notice the longer they are in the relationship, the more they become like the white family they have now attached themselves? Have you noticed? They begin to see the world as they see the world. They begin to view black people as they view black people. They begin to interact with our community the way that they interact with our. Do you notice that? Because it is a brainwash process. You cannot be in that setting and not get brainwashed, no matter how well-meaning you are. No matter how well-meaning you are, you cannot help but get brainwashed. And then you sleeping with her, and then you eating with her family. You start forgetting who they are. Look in the movie. Ricky Bell started to forget who he was and who they were. And when he lost the consciousness of who he was, that's when they were able to get him. You notice from the moment they met him, they were doing what? Evaluating him. From the moment they met him, they began what? Evaluating him. Facts. The movie was superbly symbolic and effective. Let's keep on going. Notice the brother. Remember, he met the white girl's brother. Remember that? he met the brother. And they were at the dinner table. And the brother wanted to ask him some more questions. Now, the brother was the coolest person in the family, remember? He was cool, he was hip, he was chilling, crazy, but cool. Okay? Notice how he ended up being the worst racist in the family. The liberal brother was the worst racist in the family. What does that tell you? The whites who you like the most can be some of the most virulent racists you will ever meet. I'm going to tell you, when I was working on my doctorate, the professor who I thought was the most understanding of my reality ended up being the worst racist on the whole faculty. Facts! The liberal is the one you need to watch. See, the conservative tells you. George Bush tells you. Donald Trump tells you. It's Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton you better look out for. It's Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton you better look out for. Facts. The dinner conversation. Remember, they had a dinner conversation. And the purpose of the dinner conversation was to study him to make sure he was acceptable. What did Obama have to do before he became president? He had to meet with the Bilderbergers. What did Oprah, LeBron, Jay-Z, all rich, famous celebrities? They have to sit down with the corporation to make sure they understand the rules and know who's in charge. They evolve. You notice the whole process was a screener. Her dating him was a screener. It was no coincidence that at the end of the movie, what was she doing? On the computer, typing up more black athletes. She was on the computer looking up high school athletes and college athletes. What was she doing? Investigating, surveilling, selecting, targeting those who could be useful within the system. They only want those who can. You know how many great football and basketball players never made it in the system because you got to be able to be massaged. They got to be able to massage your consciousness. They want a certain type of Negro. It don't matter how good you are. If we can't use you the way we want to use you, you're no use to us. Remember the brother in the NBA, what was his name? The Muslim brother, light-skinned brother. He was one of the top point guards until he became Muslim and he stopped pledging that flag. What happened to him? Y'all remember that, right? So these are all the things that we have to look at. Very important. Now, remember at dinner, the brother made a reference to jujitsu. Remember? Jujitsu. And he said, he referenced jujitsu and he said jujitsu was about power versus strategy. And I'm paraphrasing. Remember that? Jujitsu. What was that about? What was the jujitsu conversation about? The brother said he does jujitsu. And then the white guy said, jujitsu is about power versus not having any, but knowing how to use the other person's power to your advantage. Powerful. What that symbolizes is how we as African people have to learn how to strategize. How to strategize and use the power of others against them in our quest for freedom, redemption, and international repatriation and resurrection. Jiu-jitsu, the art of using the opponent's power and leverage to your advantage. Remember, in the art of war, every weakness is a strength, and every strength is a potential weakness. Jiu-jitsu. Now let's go back. Remember, the girlfriend asked How are my parents any different from the police? Remember that? After her dad said he was glad that he killed the deer, remember they went upstairs and she looked at Ricky Bell and said, how could they say that? My parents, how are they any different from the police? Because they're not. Because they're not. The collective consciousness of America's European population is consistent when it comes to black folk. It is consistent when it comes to us. There is no difference. There is a common denominator when it comes to race relations. And there are very few aberrations in that collective consciousness as it refers to how Europeans view black folks. Facts. Notice how all the servants were zombies. All the servants were zombies. They were all under a hypnotism. Have you noticed that? Everyone. No one had their own mind. Anybody in the corporation was a psychological casualty of the war. All the blacks in the family, which is the corporation, the secret society, the family, the corporation, the secret society is the Trinity, 3 into 1. The family, the corporation, the secret society is a Trinity, the 3 into the 1. Notice how all the blacks in the corporation were walking zombies. The message, and I teach this, what do I always say? You don't change systems. You tear them down or you revolutionize them. But you can't, the system changes you. We always hear black people say, you got to infiltrate this system. You can't infiltrate this system. The system will infiltrate you. And that's what you saw in the movie Good Out. All the black servants were infiltrated. They were psychologically infiltrated, brainwashed, and hypnotized. Remember? And they could not think for themselves. They could not see for themselves. They could not perceive for themselves. Okay? Everybody was hypnotized. It don't matter how long you've been there, hypnotized. And remember, they were totally dependent on the system. Notice that. None of them went home. Have you noticed that? None of them left for the day, went home, and came back. They all lived on the plantation because there is no time. LeBron James ain't got no downtime. Jay-Z ain't got no downtime. Oprah ain't got no downtime. And I'm not dissing them. I'm just saying because of their relationship to the system, because they were made by the system, they can never leave it. They can never leave it. Now, here is something I hope you caught. There was only one thing that Ricky Bell could do to break their hypnosis on the slaves in the family. What was the one thing he could do that would break the hypnosis, but only for a moment? He would flash his camera light. Remember that? Whenever he would flash his camera, they would come back to consciousness. Remember? At the end, what happened? When the guy came to kill Ricky Bell on the road, right? The white girl said, get him, get him. And Ricky Bell took out his phone and flashed him. Remember? And then he came back to consciousness. All right? That says what? That the white light of consciousness can still wake some of them up. But if it's not consistent, they'll go back to sleep. The white light of consciousness, not white people, but the white light of the stream of Obatala, the light of Obatala. Obatala represents consciousness in the Yoruba pantheon. The white light of Obatala, when he flashed the light, that represents light to the third eye. That represents light to the third. Whenever he flashed the light, they would wake up momentarily from their trance under white supremacy. But because the light went back out, they went right back to sleep. And did you notice that once he flashed the big brother at the end of the movie, instead of killing him, the brother turned around and killed her. He was able to see what was going on. And he took her out instead of taking him out. But then what did he do? Right after that, what did the brother do? He killed himself. That was symbolic of the mental death that a lot of brothers and sisters go through when they decide to join the corporation. Hollywood, NFL, NBA, media, politics, corporate, whatever it is, the corporation. Many of them end up losing their mind trying to get out. Kanye West, Martin, right? Who are some of the other celebrities who lost their mind trying to get out of the matrix? Okay? Kanye comes to mind. Martin comes to mind. There was a few more. Who were some of the other whistleblowers in the music industry? The brother from Mobb Deep was one of them. There's a couple of them. They tried to get out and almost lost. They went crazy getting out because the hypnosis is so strong. Sometimes the only way they can get out is to have a nervous breakdown to shake the psyche and the programming of the European. You got to remember now, the CIA has hundreds of psychologists on staff. The FBI has hundreds of psychologists on staff. This stuff is deep, brothers and sisters. That MK Ultra that the CIA been working on since the 40s, this ain't no joke. I think Dylan Roof was MK Ultra. The Dark Knight Killer was MK Ultra. Timothy McVeigh was MK Ultra. All of them was MK Ultras. Yes, Jeffrey Dahmer, a lot of them were MK mind control. They got them brothers and sisters under a mind control, and a lot of them don't even know that they under the mind. David Chappelle said he came into his trailer and they had a dress hanging up waiting for him. David Chappelle said, they didn't even tell me they wanted me to wear a dress. David Chappelle said, I walked into my trailer and the dress was hanging up. They didn't even ask me to put it on. I was just supposed to go and put it on. Remember, Kevin Hart said he would never wear a dress. Kevin Hart said he would never wear a dress. And after he said that, they made him put the dress on. And I'm not disrespecting him. He's from North Philadelphia like me. Proud of the brother's success, but you got to get out the matrix. Get out the matrix. Let's keep on going. Remember the brother, Ricky Bell, was laying in the bed asking how, he was laying in the bed. Remember he was having flashbacks of the deer. He was having flashbacks of the deer. That was his intuition trying to tell him that you're the next roadkill. Remember, he couldn't get the deer out of his mind. That was his spirit telling him, you don't belong here. You notice how a lot of brothers and sisters who get trapped in the matrix, they always see signs that they should have not stayed. They always say, something wasn't right about this. Something didn't feel right about this. It felt like a setup because it was. Because it was. And they don't trust the Ori. They don't trust the divine messenger inside them to guide them rightly. Now, remember the mother, the white mother, saw him trying to understand the matrix. So once he began to wake up, he started studying. Remember, he went outside. He went outside to take a smoke because something didn't feel right. Ricky Bell goes outside to take a smoke, right? And he comes back in, and the mother says, come on in here. Let's sit down and talk. Remember that? That's when they see them trying to get consciousness. They see the NFL and the NBA and the rappers and the actors trying to get some consciousness. And they do what? Take them to a deeper level of the programming. A deeper level of the programming. Okay? It could be a secret sodomy society ritual. It could be a secret sodomy society ritual, or it could be something else. But they take them. So you got this level, level 1. Then they take you level 2. Then they take you to level 3. Jay-Z Blueprint album, 3 bars. 3rd degree. And I ain't talking necessarily at a masonry. Okay? The corporation is modeled after the masonry because the masonry is a branch of the corporation. But them 3, level 1, level 2, level 3. So the mother said, come and have a seat. The level said, come. The mother said, and remember he sat down, and what she do? She used compassion to break his psychological defense. She used compassion to break his psychological defense. She used compassion. What did they do to get into Africa? How did the Europeans lay siege to Africa? They sent the missionaries in. They sent the churches in, and they used the churches to disarm us psychologically. They used the churches to disarm us. Notice, what did she say? How did your mother die? And he looked like, how did you know my mother died? Because white folks don't deal with you unless they investigate. They don't deal with you unless they research. They not playing. You don't come to their table unless they've studied you. You don't come to their table unless they have researched you. They don't just pick you up off the... Listen, they researched LeBron. They researched Steph Curry. They researched Jay-Z and Beyonce. They researched Oprah. They researched Tyler Perry. I'm not knocking them. But in their history, they saw nothing that would lead them to believe that they were pulling Nat Turner. There is nothing they saw that would lead them to believe that they would pull a Nat Turner. Speaking of Nat Turner, I'm about to blow your mind. Y'all ready for this? Y'all ready for this bomb? Check it out. The movie Get Out was identical to Birth of a Nation. The movie Get Out was identical to Birth of a Nation. The movie Get Out was identical to the Nat Turner Revolution, but it was totally codified and hidden in the symbol. Look at it. Nat Turner is born into slavery. Ricky Bell is brought into the corporation. The old white lady takes a liking to Nat Turner, remember? She started teaching him how to read. The white wife acts like she's taking a liking to Ricky Bell. She hypnotizes him. Nat Turner being taught how to read by the white lady, that's a form of hypnotism. But then as Nat Turner begins to wake up, Ricky Bell begins to wake up. They begin to see that the system ain't right. Ricky Bell does what at the end? He turns into Nat Turner. He rebels against the system. Nat Turner rebels against the system. They both go to war with the system and they both break free. Get Out was Nat Turner symbolized. Birth of a Nation. Facts. Facts. So the mother saw him trying to get out, told him to come have a seat. She used compassion to break down his psychological defense. White folks have been using compassion to break down black people's psychological defense for a very long time. White folks have been using compassion to break down black people's psychological... What's the first? Are you having a good day? Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you. Is there anything we can do? Can I help you? And by doing that, they psychologically disarm you. That's what she did. That was war. She was conducting psychological warfare against him. She took him to the next level of programming by psychologically disarming with compassion. Y'all have to watch that. Watch how they psychologically disarm you in court, the job, in society. Don't drop your defense because they being nice. That's how they took Africa. That's how they gonna take you. That's how they took Africa. That's how they gonna take you. And what were her words? What was the mother's actual words? She saw him trying to understand the matrix, so she took him to the next level. And what was her words? She called it heightened suggestibility. Did y'all hear that? I'm quoting. She said heightened suggestibility. In other words, I'm going to implant in you. I'm going to implant in you the ideas that I want you to have so you can work for me. She said heightened suggestibility. That's brainwash. That's mental conditioning. That's subconscious programming. That's psychological terrorism. She said it in the movie. Heightened suggestibility. And then the compassion is the hypnosis. The compassion, I can't say that enough. They sent the missionaries first. I can't say that enough. Compassion is the weapon. They sent the missionaries first. Best way to get black folks is to do what? Start talking about Jesus. Start talking about Jesus. Start talking about Muhammad, and y'all lose all y'all common sense. Without knowing what she was up to, he fell for the hypnosis. He believed in the compassion, and that's how she got him. The essence of war is deception. Sun Tzu. The essence of war is deception. Sun Tzu. Notice, stay with me. Once she hypnotized him, heightened suggestibility. Did you notice what happened next? He couldn't move. Remember that? He couldn't move. And she said, you are paralyzed. Remember? He couldn't move. And she said, you are paralyzed. When you are paralyzed, you can't think. Well, sometimes you can think, but you can't move your hands. You can't move your feet. That means you can't progress and you can't defend yourself. She said, you are paralyzed. You lost the ability to use your hands, and you lost that was symbolism. Paralysis is the deepest form of control. When you paralyze, your central nervous system cannot command your body to do nothing. When you are paralyzed, your central nervous system cannot command your body to do nothing. To be paralyzed is to be in a straitjacket, and all straitjackets are white in color. All straitjackets are white in color. And then she commanded him to do what? Sink into the floor. Remember that? She said, sink into the floor. And then he ended up doing what? Going beneath the floor, and he ended up falling deep into outer space. Remember? He was outer space, just floating through outer space. She said, sink into the floor. And then he went into outer space, and he kept on sinking and sinking and sinking. You know what that represented? That was the door of no return. There's a point you go beyond in psychological conditioning that you never come back. But do you know what it also meant? It represented a total loss of consciousness. A total loss of his contact with reality. Now, I'm going to go a step further. When she told him that she was using heightened suggestibility, then she told him he was paralyzed, meaning his central nervous system cannot command his body to do nothing. She then commanded him to sink into the floor. And did you notice when he ended up floating into outer space? When he ended up floating into outer space, he didn't have no shoes on. But he had shoes on when he came into the house. Remember? He smoked. The guy ran past him. He walked back in the house. She said, come sit down. He had shoes on. Why didn't he have any shoes on? Why didn't he have any shoes on when he was going through outer space? The purpose of not having any shoes on was to show he had lost his grounding. He had lost his grounding. He had lost his balance. He lost it. You know, you can get your traction better in a war if you got some shoes on your feet. People step on your toes, they can shoot your toes. Toes can get cold, bit, cut. No shoes on, he lost his grounding. No shoes. Totally lost your grounding. What's the first thing somebody need before they go to war? Shoes. What's the first thing you need before you go to work? Shoes. First thing you need before you go to the store? Shoes. Shoes are necessary in order for you to do what? To walk. To progress. To walk. They took his shoes, which means they took his ability to move forward in life. Facts. And then there was also symbolism in the teacup, the water, and the spoon. There was also symbolism in the teacup, the water, and the spoon. Okay? Tea is a crop. Slavery. Water symbolizes the water that brought us over during slavery. The water was the ocean. The tea was the crop that we were brought here to pick, and the spoon was the metal that represented the gun that they used to control us. I'm going to say it again. The water was the ocean that brought us over. The tea symbolized the crop that we were brought here to pick. Sugar, tobacco, tea, other things. Crop. And the spoon represented the heavy metal of the gun that they used to take us and control us with. Facts. Facts. Let's go. And then she said, you're sunken into space. She basically told him, I got your mind. She basically said, you my bitch. That's what she said. You my bitch. See, there's two types of a sodomy. A black man can be sodomized physically through the rectum, but there's a psychological sodomy where you let them play with your mind so much that they effeminize you. They emasculate you so much that you become they bitch, literally. And I don't want to use any more profanity because some teachers reached out to me. Shout out to the teachers, and they say, Dr. Johnson, I show your Facebook Live videos in my class. I show them to my students. So I need you to pull back on the profanity so it can be acceptable. I respect that as an educator. Totally will honor that request. So we have to be, black men, don't get sodomized psychologically. Psychological sodomy. Psychological. A lot of you black men are being psychologically sodomized. Psychologically sodomized. They using psychological terrorism to break down your defense. And if they break down your defense, what good is you to defend your family? If they break Ben Carson. Ben Carson is one of them corporate Negroes. Ben Carson is the brother who was running around. Ben Carson was in that movie. Obama was in that movie. Colin Powell was in that movie. They was all in that movie. Notice when he woke up in his bed, right? She brainwashed him. He went into outer space, no shoes on. He woke up on his bed. The bed represented his deathbed. Psychologically, that represented he was psychologically dead. He became a psychological casualty after she completed the hypnosis. She said sink, he sunk, he went to the lowest level of consciousness. She totally stole his mind, and he woke up on his psychological deathbed. Facts. And then something else. Did you notice none of the servants, none of the house Negroes, none of the house Negroes bothered to tell him what he was about to go through? Did you notice that? Nobody pulled him to the side and said, listen, bruh, get up out of here. The only time they said, get out, the only time they said get out is when he flashed the light of consciousness onto them. And temporarily, they woke up from the psychological coma, and they immediately said, what? Get out. That means the soul is screaming. The soul is screaming to be freed and liberated. It doesn't matter how many cars you got. It doesn't matter how many houses you got. It doesn't matter how much money you got. The soul screams to be free, because the food of the soul is not cars. The food of the soul is not money. The food of the soul is not expensive material items. It's not automobiles. The food of the soul is connection to the great soul, the God that created. The soul needs the breath connection to supreme consciousness. That's the only thing the soul can live off. That's why the Bible even tells you that man cannot live by bread alone. The soul requires supreme consciousness. You cannot cut the soul off from God and don't think you're going to die. It's a psychological death. So the minute he flashed the white light of Obatala, the minute he flashed the white light of Obatala onto the eyes and the third eye of the victims, they woke up. And the first thing they said, get out. Get out. Because the soul is screaming to get out. And the minute the light flashed, the soul wanted to go to the light. The soul wanted to go to the light. But because the light wasn't consistent, they went right back to sleep. And that's why when we work to bring brothers and sisters into consciousness, that's why when we work to bring brothers and sisters into consciousness, we cannot stop until we achieve our goal. When we work to bring brothers and sisters into don't stop. Some of y'all say, I tried and he was just too. No, you got to keep on going. Plant the seed, brothers and sisters. Plant the seed. The seed will grow, but you don't determine when the seed grows. The seed will grow, but you don't determine when it grows. Stop trying to play God. The law of birth is whatever planted will bring forth. Whatever is planted will bring forth. Don't give up. Keep on trying to wake them up. Sooner or later, that light will emerge. The consciousness of Obatala will emerge out of the crown chakra. The consciousness of Obatala will emerge out of the crown chakra. Keep on working. Keep on working. And then, remember one of the slaves, the one by the name of Chris, one of the house slaves said, quote, I need to get back to work and mind my own business. Remember that? I need to get back to work and mind my own business. I need to get back to work and mind my own business. That was speaking to the selfishness of blacks. That was speaking to how we never look out for each other. They saw this brother about to become another psychological casualty and nobody bothered to help him. And then the one brother said, I got to get back to work and mind my business. Remember that? I got to get back to work and mind my business. And do you notice how when a movie comes on, the first brother who gets kidnapped, he was a regular brother, right? Talking like a regular brother. By the time the corporation got him, he was dressing different, talking different, sounding different. And whenever Ricky Bell tried to say something to connect, remember he said, how you doing, brother? They looked at him like he was crazy. The corporation does that to you. That's part of the psychological side of me. They disconnect you from any common ground with the rest of your brothers and sisters. They disconnect you with any common ground from the rest of your brothers and sisters. And he knew it though, didn't he? Because he told his white girlfriend, your mom hypnotized me last night. Your mom y'all did something to me. Your mom hypnotized me last night. He told her, and she tried to act like she didn't know what was going on. And then remember when all the old rich whites pulled up in the black cars, remember that? All the whites came to the house. Remember that? They all came in the Cadillac trucks and the stretch limos. That was the Bilderberger meeting. That was the Trilateral Commission meeting. That was the Federal Reserve meeting. That was the Order of Rome meeting. That was the Rockefeller Foundation meeting. That was the World Population Council. That was the Food and Drug Administrating meeting. Yes. 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 They were all coming. They were all coming to study the latest protege who was going to be initiated, because that was an initiation. It was an initiation, selling your soul to the corporation for a life of riches. Selling your soul to the corporation for a life of the rituals. Notice everything was ritualistic, the whole thing. And then, remember the black house slave, I believe it was, or either the mother told him to do what? When he said all of them are coming, she said, just smile. Remember that? Just smile. You know what that means? That means don't act black. Don't be an alpha male. Don't be unapologetic. Just smile and go along to get along. That meant give up your manhood and do whatever they want you to do in order to be accepted. That's what that meant. That's what that meant. And then, remember he met the blind guy? And he said, I know, Tiger, let's see your form. Remember that? Tiger form, golf form. He said, I know, Tiger, let's see your form. That was a reference to Tiger Woods and how he was initiated into the corporation. But the minute he upset the daughter, notice Tiger Woods' white wife, Ricky Bell had the white girlfriend. He said, I know, Tiger, let me see your form. Symbolism. The minute Tiger Woods stepped out of the expectation, cheated on the corporation, cheated on the white woman who was sent to him by the corporation, they tried to destroy Tiger Woods' career. Tiger Woods ain't won a major since. They destroyed Tiger Woods. Destroyed him because he cheated on their daughter. She was not separate from the corporation. How much you want to bet that white woman that divorced Tiger Woods was in on the whole situation? It was a setup. It was a setup. And then remember the white guy said, quote, the pendulum has swung back. Black is in fashion. The pendulum has swung back. Black is in fashion. So in essence, what he was saying was what? That it's not popular to be black, obviously, but it's popular to exploit blacks again for personal gain. That's what he meant when he said the pendulum had swung black. Remember, we started in slavery, right? We started in slavery. So the pendulum go this way. He said the pendulum has swung back. What does he mean? If we started in slavery and the pendulum swung that, he said that was coming back. Coming back to what? If we started in slavery. He was saying that it is now safe again to enslave blacks financially, athletically, and artistically for the personal benefit of white folks. Facts. And then the blind art dealer, remember the blind art dealer? Told him he knew who he was and admired his art. Remember that? He knew who he was and admired his art. Remember, he didn't show nobody no art in that movie. He didn't show nobody no art in that movie. But the blind guy who couldn't even see said he knew of his art. And when he asked him, how could you know of my art? You can't even see. He said, I have assistants who describe it in such great detail, I can picture it. I have assistants who can describe in such great detail that I can picture it. Do you know what that means? That means that they are watching. They are scouting for blacks they can use. They start on an elementary school level, middle school, high school, college. Not only do they study the ones they can use, they also study the ones they can't use. Just like Jay-Z is on a list, Dr. Umar Johnson is on another list. They have to know who they can trust, and they have to know who they cannot trust. And that's no disrespect to Mr. Carter. I'm just saying. They know who they can trust, and they know who they can't trust. And the reason you had an Asian, the Asian in the movie, was to symbolize the fact that they are working with other minorities to push black folks out. They are working with other minorities to control the consciousness of African folks. That it's not just white, it's a multicultural movement against black folks. But hold on, I'm going to come back to the Chinese thing. Hold on. Now remember, when he went upstairs in the house, after he met with the blind art dealer, he went upstairs in the house, and all the white folks stopped and listened to what he was doing. Once you in the system, they all spy on you for each other. Once you are in the system, you leave and you come back, you go to the hood for the weekend, come back, they watch you to make sure nobody was trying to wake up your consciousness. This is why a lot of celebrities who support Dr. Umar, and I appreciate him, but they can't get too close to me. They can't get too close to me because the corporation won't like that. They don't want nobody raising the consciousness of black celebrities. They need to keep them psychologically apathetic to the realities of black America. Now, remember he called his friend, the brother, TSA worker, the brother? He called his friend and told him he was hypnotized. But then he said, I'm cool because I'm cured. Remember? At first he thought he was cured. And it took his friend to tell him, you ain't cured because you're still in the house. Remember? He said, I think I got hypnotized, but I'm cured now. And the friend said, nah, you ain't cured. You still in the house. See, a lot of them think because they watch some YouTube, see a couple documentaries, that they out the matrix. You can never be out the matrix until you out the system. You can never be out the matrix until you out the system. You can never be out the matrix until you are out of the system. Georgina, remember Georgina? The black house woman? The black female house slave, remember her, Georgina? Her job was to keep him distracted from what the whites were doing. Remember Georgina? They used Georgina to unplug his phone. They used Georgina. One time she was looking in the mirror and she was playing with her hair. Remember that? She was looking in the mirror, she was playing with her hair. Okay? They were using Georgina to distract her. But Georgina don't have no power. Georgina was only doing what the system told her to do. He took his eyes off the system and started worrying about Georgina. That's what a lot of us do. We start blaming each other. We start blaming each other, failing to realize we just pawns. None of us got the power that the system has to be used against us. He took his eyes off of the system and started looking at Georgina. He thought Georgina was his problem. Georgina wasn't the problem. The system was the problem. The system was the problem. Notice when he brought up race, Georgina cried and said, that's not my experience. The family treats me just as good as any other member. Remember that? He brought up race and Georgina said, that's not my experience. That's not my experience. The family treats me good, just like I'm family. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby. That's not my experience. The family treats me good until you do something that the family don't want you to do, and now you looking at spending the rest of your life in jail because a bunch of old white women claim you raped them 40 years ago. Facts. And then remember the Chinese? The Chinese asked him if being black was an advantage or disadvantage in the modern world. Remember that? They used the Chinese to ask him if being black was an advantage or a disadvantage in the modern world. And then he said he couldn't go into detail because he hadn't left the house in a while. Remember? The Chinese guy said, is being black an advantage or a disadvantage? And he said, I don't know because I haven't left the house in a while. Do you know what that meant? That meant he was so disconnected. He was so disconnected from the everyday experiences of black folk that he couldn't even answer the question. He was so disconnected from the everyday experience of black folk by being so immersed in the corporation that he couldn't even answer the question. And then he snapped the camera. The flash, the father said it set him off. He screamed and said, get out. His nose started bleeding. Remember that? The skinny guy, the first guy who got abducted when the movie come on, when he flashed him, remember that? His nose started bleeding. Okay? And then the white woman who owned him got him back in order real quick. And then the father said it was a seizure, but Chris, Ricky Bell's name is Chris, Chris said it was not a seizure. Remember? He said, my cousin had seizures. That was not a seizure. But then the white girl said, my father is a neurosurgeon. He would know. Do you know what that symbolizes? That symbolizes never question the authorities. My dad is a surgeon. He said that it was a seizure. That's it. It's a seizure. You don't question the authority. That's how they control us. The research, the studies, the doctors. He said that was not a seizure. And she said, my father is a surgeon. And if he said it was a seizure, it was a seizure. And notice how they used the old white lady to get him back in order. Compassion. The female, Hillary Clinton. Compassion. Compassion. And then Chris did the unthinkable. He pulled a Kanye, right? He pulled a David Chappelle. He told his white girlfriend, I got to get out of here. And then she said, are you going to leave without me? And he said, if I got to, I got to go. If you coming, you coming, but I got to go. But the mistake he made was what? He trusted somebody in the system to tell them that he had to leave the system. You never tell people in the system what you plot, because they all serve the power structure. He told her, I hope Kanye ain't telling Kim Kardashian. I hope Kanye ain't telling Kim Kardashian. I hope David Chappelle ain't telling his Chinese wife. I hope David Chappelle ain't telling his Chinese wife. You never tell the person in the system, your white wife. You don't tell them what you up to. She's still loyal to the system more than you. You just a pawn. You saw her on the computer looking up the athletes. You saw her on the computer looking up the athletes. And then, while he was away with the daughter, what was the father doing? The father was conducting a silent auction. Remember that? An auction. An auction. Auctioning the slaves. And it was a slave auction. It was a slave he was having with the bingo card. That was an auction. A silent slave auction to determine which corporation was going to get him. Was it going to be TNT? Was it going to be the NBA? Was it going to be the NFL? Was it going to be the Secret Sodomy Society? Who was going to get this new slave? We're auctioning him off. Who is bidding? Who gets the bid? But when you get the bid, it's not just a bid to own him. It's also a bid to destroy him if necessary. You don't just own them. You have to destroy them if they get out of line. Secret auction. Notice it was silent. It's never to be spoken. The decisions that are made by the power elite are silent, never to be spoken. There's no records. There's no artifacts. It is silent, and it is never to be spoken. They even use bingo, because in bingo, you don't have to talk. In bingo, you can show the number. In bingo, you can talk, but you don't have to talk. Bingo is a game that can be played in silence. The game that they playing on blacks is silent. The game that they playing on black athletes is silent. He told the white girl, you're all I got. I won't leave here without you. Remember that? After his mom died. I won't leave here without you. Too much trust in the white girl. Kanye West, Kim Kardashian. Too much trust. Don't trust her, Kanye. No disrespect to her. Don't trust nobody in the system. Her family's in the system. Her family can get information from her about you. Don't trust her, Kanye. You my brother. We love you. Don't trust her. I know that's your wifey. You got a big. Don't trust her. Her family is in the system. Her father was best friends with OJ. Don't trust her. Then she agreed to leave with him, act like she was on his side. That's symbolic of white folks acting like they on black people's side. Symbolic. And then everyone smiled when he came back. Remember, they had an auction about him. They just auctioned him off. They just had a silent auction. And soon when he come back, everybody smiling, didn't even bother telling him that he just got auctioned. He didn't even know what he was walking into. The symbolism. He didn't even know what he was walking into. The symbolism. The symbolism. And who escorted him back? His white girlfriend. All these black athletes and entertainers with these white girls. They're using y'all. This is chess. It ain't checkers. This is chess. It ain't checkers. She agreed to leave with him. Everyone smiled when he returned home that night to make him think all was well, although his death and enslavement was planned. They had shown him too much. See, here's the problem, y'all. They shown him too much to let him go out. Once you know too much, they can't let you back. Once you know too much, they cannot let you go. Whitney Houston, they cannot let you go. Michael Jackson, they cannot let you go. Tupac Shakur, they cannot let you go. Christopher Wallace, they cannot let you go. That's why it's best to leave as soon as you know, because once they start telling you secrets, you can't leave. Once they divulge any secret, once he saw that meeting, when he saw everybody pull up in them limos, when he saw everybody pull up in them black cars, that was it. You saw faces. You saw faces. They could not let him go after that. He saw faces. Someone opened the door so he could see what was happening. Remember that? When it was time to leave, the door was cracked. He went into the little closet and he found pictures of her with all the victims. She was recruiting the victims for the corporation. Most of them were black males, but Georgina was the female. But every house slave was recruited by the daughter. She was an expert in drafting black men into the system of white supremacy. But somebody left the door open. They had a flash of consciousness to let him know what was about to happen, but it was too late. It was too late. He did not follow his intuition. He trusted the system. They disarmed him with compassion through the mother. Through the mother. And remember, the father came and asked him, what is your purpose in life? Remember that? The father, the passive-aggressive, Obama-loving, racist dad. The same one who was happy that the deer got killed. Remember what he said? Kill all of them. That's one less one we got to worry about. He said, what is your purpose in life? He said, we are born, we breathe, we die. We are born, we breathe, you die. He said, we are gods trapped in a cocoon. He said, we are gods trapped in a cocoon. And what that basically symbolizes is that the system needs to keep you in a cocoon, because if you become God, you will no longer see a need to be part of this system. So they keep the truth from you. They keep the divinity of African people from you. They keep knowledge of self from you, so you stay in the cocoon. The secret society is a cocoon. Hollywood is a cocoon. The media, the music industry is a cocoon. The whole purpose is to keep us from being gods. Because you can never be God while you're dependent on another man. You can never be God while you are dependent on another man. Now, Rose had the keys to free him the whole time, but she acted like she couldn't. Remember that? Rose had the keys to free him the whole time, but act like she couldn't. This is liberal whites. Rose represent liberal white America, always acting like they want to help black folks. They really can, but they never do. His girlfriend symbolizes liberal white America, always acting like they don't know what to do to help blacks, but they know exactly how the system operates, and they do nothing to change it. Facts. Then he tried to fight Jeremy, but the mom tapped on the T. Remember that? The mom kept tapping on the T, bringing him back to what? Slavery. The ocean, the crops, the gun. She tapped on that. The ocean, the crops, the gun. Bring him right back to slavery when he tried to fight Jeremy. Put him right back into hypnosis. And then they lock him up, right? He's locked up. Slave. Got the slave bands around his wrists. Slave bands around his feet, right? He's sitting in a brown chair. He's sitting in a brown chair. And then he starts tearing up the chair arm. Remember? He starts tearing up the chair arm. White starts popping up. Brown chair. The white was symbolizing picking the cotton. Picking the cotton. He was tearing up the brown soil, exposing the white cotton he was picking the cotton. It symbolizes he was at the lowest state he could possibly be, a field slave. Shackled, can't move, picking the cotton, symbolizes he was in the basement. Remember, she said, go below. They put him in the basement, locked him up. This symbolizes the lowest level of consciousness and the lowest level of existence. He started picking the cotton with his hands. He was at the barely lowest level of consciousness, physically and psychologically. Then the TV comes on. And then it's Norman Armitage, John D. Rockefeller. Norman Armitage, John D. Rockefeller. Norman Armitage, John D. Rockefeller is on the TV. And he says, you've been selected because of your gifts. Y'all remember? He said, you've been selected because of your gifts and talents. Don't fight it. One day you will enjoy being a member of this family. Remember that, y'all? Remember that? The Godfather came on. John D. Rockefeller came on and said, you have been chosen because of your gifts. How did they know his gifts? He didn't tell nobody his gifts. He did say he was an athlete, but they didn't know how good he was. They didn't know all about his art. He never knew these people. But he said, you've been selected because of your gifts. They knew everything about him. Remember what Little Caesar said after they killed Big? Little Caesar said when the FBI came to the house, they had pictures of him and Big in Big's house. Little C said this on the documentary. He said they have pictures of me and Big in Big house. How did the FBI get pictures of me and Big in Big house? They had Tupac and Big under surveillance the whole week before they killed him. They watching all of us. They watching this. They know everything that we do. So stop being scared. There's nothing we can do in secret. You just got to do it. We just got to do it. Forget being scared. You just got to do it. You ain't got to go with a bullhorn, but you can't be afraid to move because they know it all. Ain't no more secrecy. Ain't no more clandestine. You still got to keep it a secret from Negroes who trying to destroy you. From the Negroes who trying to destroy you. But the system already knows. They got the cell phone. They got the tablet. They got the watch. They got it all. Cameras in the stoplight. They got it all. The satellites track all human communication. Ain't no secrets. He knew everything about this man and never met him. Remember, the king of the corporation is never present. Norman Armitage was never there. Nobody could place him at the scene. He joined by camera. That's how it always is. Power is felt, never seen. You never see the boss. You never see the boss. Power is secret. You never see the boss. Who killed JFK? We don't know. Who killed Abraham Lincoln? We don't know. Who ordered the Malcolm hit? We'll never totally know. Because power is kept in secret. Why? Because if it identifies itself, it becomes a target. If it identifies itself, it becomes a target, so it remains a secret. The most powerful people in this world will sit next to you in the movie theater and you don't even know they're there. The most powerful people in the world will sit next to you in the movie theater and you don't even know they're there. Norman Armitage came by TV. You can never place him. And then the mom, her job was to keep him hypnotized. Female energy. The mother represents female energy, white female energy, keeping black men hypnotized. The mother represents white female energy, keeping the black man hypnotized. And then notice when the friend went to the police, remember his friend went to the police and said, my buddy been missing, I got his dog. The police laughed at him. You know why? They represent educated Negroes who trust everything the white man does, don't think he can do no harm, and who've been educated out of their own minds. You're educated out of your... Remember they laughed at him? They didn't even check into it. They just laughed at him. That couldn't possibly happen. Even if it did, we don't care. Bourgeois Negroes who turn a blind eye to the suffering of others. That's what that represents. Bourgeois Negroes who turn a blind eye to the suffering of the rest of us. And then the friend could see straight through the whole lies. Remember that? Remember he called Rose and said, Rose, where's my friend? And Rose said, I don't know. He left yesterday. He said, you a lying ass woman. You're lying. I'm going to take the friend conscious. His third eye was open. Did you see? Because he wasn't in the corporation. He could see. He could see. He tried to save his friend. He knew the white girl was lying. He could see consciously, clearly. His vision wasn't blurry because he never set foot in the system. And then Rose tried to get him, didn't she? Rose said, you want to have sex with me? Rose was going to try to pull him in, but he wasn't falling for it. He wasn't falling for it. He was too sharp. And then the blind artist came back on TV, remember? The one who called him Tiger Woods and said he loves his artwork. Remember? He came back and said what? To explain the process. He said, quote, stage 1, hypnosis. This is what the blind man said on the TV. Stage 1, hypnosis. Stage 2, limited consciousness. This is what he said. Y'all remember? Stage 1, hypnosis. Stage 2, limited consciousness. He said, quote, you will be able to see and hear, but your existence will be as a passenger. I'm going to say that again. This is a quote. The blind man on the TV said, you will be able to see and hear, but your existence will be as a passenger. So let me ask you a question. If you can see and hear, and your existence is like a passenger, that means you are totally under what, y'all? Mind control. That's saying the athletes, the rappers, the entertainers, this is saying what? That they can see, they can hear, they can dance and dunk and act. But guess what? Their mind is totally being controlled for them. The blind man said that. You will be able to see and hear, but your existence will be as a passenger. And then he also said that I will control what? Your motor functions. The blind man said that. We will control your motor function. Remember, he didn't have his shoes on when the woman put him into deep loss of consciousness. He said, we will control what you do. We will control your motor functions. Not just your mind, your motor. Not just your... He said your motor function. What you do, where you go, what you say, who you marry, where you live, where you pray. The whole game. The whole game. And then the artist said what? I want your eyes, remember? The passive-aggressive father was about to perform what? Eye surgery. He was going to take the eyes out of Ricky Bell and put them in the blind man. Organ harvesting of black organs. Organ harvesting. In other words, when they found out they couldn't use him no more, he was going to be no good to the corporation. Guess what? He was going to end up dead and have his organs harvested. Whitney Houston end up dead and have his organs harvested. Michael Jackson end up dead and have your organs harvested. When they can no longer use you, they kill you and sell your organs to other members of the corporation who needs them. Other members of the corporation who needs them. Facts. He was powerless against the hypnotism. And this also explains what? The thousands of black people who go missing every year. Remember, we have about 5,000 black folks who go missing in America every year. They're being snatched up for organ harvest, organ traffic. You cannot buy organs. You can only take them from people. You cannot buy organs. You can only take them from people. All those blacks, men being killed in Chicago, you think they put them in the ground with healthy organs? Young black men, the original man, they taking their body parts, heart, eyes, kidney, liver, spleen, testicles, organ traffic. Yes. The father was a surgeon. And remind you, the eyes. This eye too, pineal gland. They studying us for our melanin transformational capacity. Melanin is the spiritual gland. The pineal gland don't make melanin. The pituitary gland makes the melanin. Pineal gland don't make melanin. The pituitary gland makes the melanin. But the pineal gland uses melanin. Uses melanin to help us reach higher states of consciousness. White folks believe if they can use that melanin accurately, they can not only induce higher states of spiritual consciousness, they can also induce other things within the human body and within the human psyche. The black man and woman's pineal gland, the black man and woman's pineal gland is the gateway to deeper scientific discovery. The black man and woman's pineal gland is the gateway to deeper scientific discovery. He stabbed the father in the neck with the same deer horns. Check. Remember he got hit with the deer? He got hit with the, he hit the deer at the beginning of the movie when they were driving home. He stabbed the father in the neck with horns from the deer. That represents the chicken coming home to roost. That represents black people getting revenge and finally getting free from white supremacy by using what? The jujitsu. That it represents black people getting free from white supremacy and domination by using the jitsu that the brother spoke of easy, using their power against them. They threw the deer at the car. Well, guess what? He took the deer and threw the deer back at the man and killed him with the own horns from his own evil. What did Nat Turner say? Nat Turner said, slay the dragon with his own weapons. Nat Turner, slay the dragon with his own weapons. And then the police stopped. Let me go back. Beginning of the movie, remember the police came after they hit the deer. Notice the white girl did all the talking. He didn't say nothing to the police. He was docile. She was aggressive. How about she knew the police knew her? That was a planned stop to see how much alpha male aggression he had. Alpha males are no good to this system, only docile males. Let me say it again. Alpha males are no good to the system of white supremacy. They're too messy. They can go berserk at any moment, right? Because they follow their own heart. An alpha male follows his own consciousness. So the police stop at the beginning of a movie was planned to see if he was docile or aggressive. If he would have told that cop, I ain't do shit wrong, leave me alone, they would have said he doesn't bow down to authority. The cop represent authority. And the police stop in the beginning of a movie was a pre-screener. That was a pre-screener before he got to the corporation to see if he could pass the first test. And that is to be docile, to let the white woman do the talking while he sit there like the docile child. Facts. Facts. Compassion is the weapon they use to psychologically disarm black folks. Now, she was on the computer looking for other athletes, more victims. Georgina was a dedicated house Negro, right? Georgina represents how to use black women against black men. Georgina represents how to use black women against black men. Okay? Not all sisters, but some of you sisters. Remember what Georgina said? She started crying when he talked about race. She started crying when he brought up race. She said, they treat me good. I don't know what you're talking about. And a lot of black women do that same shit. You got your degrees, you got your job, you got your car. And when we start talking about brothers who are unemployed, mass incarceration, some of you sisters say, I don't know what you're talking about. America has treated me good. You are a Georgina. How many of y'all know sisters out there who act like Georginas? And how many of y'all know brothers out there who act like them other two house Negro brothers who wouldn't help their brother, who wouldn't tell him what was going on so he wouldn't fall victim to the system like they did? And then when he tried to get away, Georgina did what? She jumped in front of the car. Georgina jumped in front of the car. And what did she say? She said, you ruined my house. She ain't got no control, no power. She a victim herself. She said, you ruined my house. Threw herself in front of the car. Threw herself in front of the car for her white slave masters. And then the white girl called Georgina grandma and called the young brother grandpa, although that they were young. You notice that? She called them grandma and grandpa. In other words, she was treating them like they were members of the family. Treating them like they were members of the family and not the slaves that they really were. White corporation love for black people to think that you're part of the family. White corporations love for black folks to act like you're part of the family. And then the servant killed her after Chris flashed the cell phone, the consciousness, and then he took his own life because he couldn't take being a psychological slave to white supremacy anymore, right? And then Ricky Bell damn near became crazy himself, didn't he? He damn near went out of his mind. Kanye, he had a Kanye moment just to get out the damn system. And then when the police came, she said, help, the white girl. He tried to choke her. Then when the police came, she said, help me. Help me. She was going to turn on him. She was the perpetrator. But that same girl who he said, I can't leave without you. I love you. I can't leave without you. I love you. She was going to get him shot and killed by the police right there on the road. And the movie goes off. What does the friend tell him? The friend was the wise one. The friend was the wise one. The TSA worker, he says, I told you not to go in that house. I told you not to go in that house. I told you not to go in that house. And they say that when she was calling them grandma and grandpa, that's because they took the minds of her grandparents. They took the white consciousness and put it in the black mind. Grandma, grandpa, that symbolizes they took the white consciousness of her grandparents and put it in the minds of the black folks. So brothers and sisters, that's Dr. Umar Johnson's original, uninfluenced assessment of Get Out, which was Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation. It was the Nat Turner story told through symbolic language. Powerful. Watch Birth of a Nation and watch Get Out, and you'll see the whole thing was a parallel. Ricky Bell was Nat Turner. And his friend who came to get him at the end, that was Will, the executioner. That's right. Georgina and the house servants, those was the slaves who didn't go with Nat. Total symbolics. So brothers and sisters, I'm about to end. Give me a couple Z's. Get up for the 6 o'clock Black Parent Teleconference, which I plan to do by Facebook Live. Again, Austin, Texas, San Antonio, doubleheader coming up. St. Louis, Kansas City, doubleheader coming up. Bronx and Brooklyn, doubleheader coming up. And also Oakland, Sacramento, doubleheader coming up. Peace and love, Black Family, Prince of Pan-Africanism. Donate to the fundraiser, GoFundMe.com/Dr. Umar. Information for the Black College and Consciousness Tour is coming up real soon. The 2-week Africa trip, last week of July, first week in Africa. Mark your calendars if you're going with me to Africa. Last week of July, first week in August. Mark your calendars if you're going with me to Africa. Last week of July, first week of August. College tour, last week of June, first week of July. 90-day repatriation task force, we pushing. 90-day repatriation task force, we still pushing on that. National Independent Black Parent Association, we're going public on the 1st of April. If you want to start a study group, please send me an email, drumarjohnson@yahoo.com. Mail in your donations, brothers and sisters. Mail in your donations. FDMG Academy, P.O. Box 6872, Philadelphia, PA 19132. One love.